So, Monster Hunter Rise trailer is here. The very first thing we see is one of the handlers singing. In Monster Hunter Rise, I think they have separated the sisters, one of them being the single player quest giver and one of them being the multiplayer quest giver. The language that they are using here on the singing is actually a made up language for Monster Hunter. They made it in Monster Hunter Tri first, and in an interview I think the developers said that they wanted to make something unique and mystical sounding for the language. It is different from Monster Hunter language itself, since Monster Hunter language itself is based on Japanese language, whereas this is completely unique and incorporates many different languages into itself. And of course, after the little introduction here, we see the hunters arriving to the town. First thing I have to kind of mention here is that one of the hunters is actually using the wire bug and is in front of the group. And that's really nice to see, that if you're using the wire bug, you're actually moving faster than you would with a palamute. Of course, in the town you might not be completely limited with the wire bug, whereas in quest you are limited to maximum of 3 uses until you need to recharge the uses. So yeah, something to think about. If you want to use the wire bug, you might be a little bit faster than the palamutes. Also, they kind of showed this scene where you arrive into the town, and I think this is deliberate, where I think that they are kind of removing the whole readying up system, or at least giving you an option of leaving the town and coming into the town very seamlessly. Or that it's related to free roam or expeditions, since quests themselves are kinda, I feel like you need to ready up in some way. Expeditions, it would be fine if everyone can just leave the town very seamlessly. And yeah. So let's just go forward here a little bit. We see the town a little bit more and some blacksmithing action. And of course we see the hunters kind of gesturing with the palicos, and we see 3 of the armor sets as well. Palamute and whatever. We see the cats cooking and hunters eating and gesturing on the table. Really fun stuff. Then we see 4 of the armor sets here. The Tetranodon armor set on the left. The steel armor set on the right. I think that's the steel armor set. Then we have 2 new armor sets and a bow user and a switch axe user. And we see two of the hunters are actually feeding the owl. The owl will work as our scout flies in this game, which sounds nice, I guess. We'll see how that works. So yeah, let's move forward here. So cute. Palicos being cute as well. Then we see the hunters here on top of the gathering hall. I think this is the gathering hall. But they are showing that you can free roam the town itself, so you're not limited to being in the gathering hall to see other people. So that's really nice. So if you have played Monster Hunter World, for example, think of it like being able to see other people or other hunters inside Celiana or in Astera. So that's really nice. That's the first time that's ever happened in Monster Hunter. So you're not just limited to the carrying hub itself to see other people. So here we see the Viabug action. They are kind of gesturing, or I think it's a nice way to gesture. You can just jump from the carrying hall right next to your friend and be like, hey, I'm here, hi. Then we see the reason why I kind of pointed out the beginning of the trailer where the hunters arrived in the town. Here we see them leaving the town. So this could be limited to expeditions or free roam, since questing is a little bit different where you usually end a quest. So free roam is, I think that's where this fits, where you can just leave the town with your palamute and go straight into expedition type of thing. So yeah, very seamlessly jump into a quest, I guess. Yeah. Then we see, of course, on the right side here, we see a thoth. If you don't know what monster this is basically your Aptanoth and whatever have you, Apsaros. So this is a thoth, very similar monster, just gives you some oil hides and that's about it. Nothing too amazing about it, but it's nice to see here because it was first introduced in Monster Hunter Tri, I believe, or Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. One or the other. I think Monster Hunter Tri had this, I'm not completely sure, I can't remember. So yeah. Next scene we see the hunters arrive into the area and some scenes from the area. And this area is actually from Monster Hunter Tri. It is a rehashed version of the Flooded Forest. As we see on the very first scene, or very next scene here, we see the pyramid. And this pyramid is in Monster Hunter Tri as well. Of course you can't reach it, but in this game, since it's a rehashed version of the map, there won't be any underwater sections, even though you see a lot of water here. I think it's just very shallow water. Whereas in Monster Hunter Tri, you had underwater combat. So I would say that at least you could expect some cave areas have some sort of like dive-in action. Similarly, how you had in Monster Hunter World, you had some sections where the hunter just dived through like a cave or something like that. But yeah, it's a shallow water type of stuff here, and on here we can actually reach the pyramid as well and free roam it. Then a new monster has been revealed, which is nice. Very reminiscent trailer or introduction here to actually in Monster Hunter 1 how we were introduced to Plesioth of all monsters. Plesioth was also in a cave similarly to this and was swimming around very like eerily like, and yeah, here we see it jumping on the ground. And there you go. So Somnakanth is the name of the monster, and I think it's wordplay, since insomnia, meaning of course if you can't sleep you probably have insomnia, and that's where the naming comes from, Somnakanth. And it kind of fits the monster, since the monster also uses sleep status, so that's really nice. And the monster is also based on a Japanese mythological creature, which is basically like a mermaid of sorts. And the myth goes basically like there was this fisherman who actually fished out a fish and kind of cooked it to his friends, and one of the friends went to the kitchen and saw the fish, and it was like a fish with a human face on it, and obviously very scared of it, and kind of told all the friends in the gathering that, hey, don't eat the fish or something bad will happen to you and stuff like that. And yeah, that's the myth basically, but yeah, it's basically a Japanese mermaid all in all. And that's where this monster is, of course, based on. And if you're wondering about the monster behavior, I think it's using the same skeleton as Nacharala and Misutsune. I think both of those monsters use the same skeleton. And very, very eerily monster where it's kind of glowing the throat and the mouth, and then it's kind of puking out this mist that causes sleep status. And it's really nice that you can actually hear the hunter say that, hey, I'm sleepy, please do something, since you can't really convey that in chat where you get sleep status and you're like, hey, status, I have status inflicted, and no one is actually reacting to that. Whereas this, I think it's really nice that the hunter says it, so that people can actually hear it. Okay, someone is sleeping. Stay awake. And here we see Somnakanth actually shaking up a clamp of sorts, which is going to heal it. So I think this is one of the key parts of the hunt, where when it's low on health, it might go and gather up these clamps and heal itself. So keep that in mind, don't let it heal itself. That's for sure. But really nice stuff here, some new animations as well. We've never seen that type of an animation on Naturala or Mizutsune. And then, we already see the monster a little bit, but Royal Lustroth. This monster here was introduced in Monster Hunter Tri, and it's one of those first monsters that you fight against in the game. Well, not the very first ones, but still, I think it was the second area that you arrive in where you see Royal Lustroth, and it's very similar monster to Great Chakras. Very similar to that. Of course, it doesn't actually eat other monsters, but it does roam in the water and do water blight at you and similar stuff. Very, very easy to hunt, but if you want dash extract or something like that, this is the monster to hunt, basically. Everyone who's played Monster Hunter Tri knows that dash extract was one of the problematic items to get. And then we see Great Rogi making a return as well. These models are really well done. I really love what they've done with Great Rogi, where it's really rubbery looking. I really like that. And Great Rogi is basically your Kuluyaku, or Tsitsiaku, maybe more, since Kuluyaku had that gimmick with the rock, but Tsitsiaku with poison basically is what Great Rogi is. There you go, the poison. And then here we see a hunter with a heavy bogan, and I will show that again since it's interesting. So we've seen this move before with an SNS, which has like SNS that has the sword is swinging around the hunter and it's using the Viabug to help that. And here we see it a little bit, it's swinging around the Viabug itself. So I think this is one of the skills that you can equip, maybe. Not completely sure, but it actually acts like a blocking mechanic for the heavy bogan, which is really cool. Since heavy bogan's only option is usually using shield mods, but here you can use the skill to activate a sort of a block for you and blocking that attack from Royal Lustroth. But we'll see how that works. Is it a skill that you can use on every weapon? Since we've seen it on Sword and Shield for sure, but it's a little bit different since Sword and Shield uses the sword to kind of swing around. But we'll see how that works. And it does damage, I think, with Sword and Shield. So here it's blocking and a charge up attack and a really powerful vault backwards. Really nice. Really nice stuff. Then we see a Switch Axe user here. I think that's a Switch Axe user. Yeah, Switch Axe user is jumping up with an uppercut using the slinger or the Viabug, and then stabbing down with the Viabug as well. Like, there you go. Bang. Let me go back a little bit before I spoil a new monster here. So this is really nice since it gives some options to Switch Axe. That's very similar to Insectlave, which I really like because I'm in Iceborne, I'm a Switch Axe main basically, and I always liked Insectlave's stabbing attack from the air, so this kind of combines the two and I'm really excited about this. There you go, stab through it, and then there's a new monster, Bishaten. Bishaten here. They're not pumpkins that you see, but I will call them pumpkins. It's a fruit that I can't name. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll call them pumpkins just because. But Bishaten here is a monkey bat, basically. There you see, monkey bat. Nothing else to say about it, I guess. I guess it's also related to some myth. I'm not completely sure about it, but it's using the Ketchawacha skeleton for sure. So if you have played Monster Hunter 4 or 4 Ultimate, there's a monster called Ketchawacha, and it's basically a flying monkey, and this is very reminiscent of that monster as well, but instead of that, this monster is actually throwing pumpkins at you. We'll see how this goes, this attack move. I would really love if these pumpkins had buff items as well, and not just something that you need to avoid. I think currently, as we see, these are purple and yellow ones, so I think yellow ones will cause you paralysis or stun damage or defense down, one or the other, and the purple ones will cause poison damage. I think that's how it goes. And one of the things that I was thinking about those pumpkins was, instead of it being like an attack that you needed to avoid, as we see here on the left side, what would be amazing was that one of the pumpkins could be like a buff item that gave you like attack boost. So you would actually need to dodge into the attack and hope that you dodged under a red pumpkin, which would give you like an attack boost. So it would be like a risk and reward thing, or just avoid it completely. That would be nice, but I doubt that's going to happen, since the one on the left side, the cloud that I showed you here, it's actually one of the insects that get activated. There it's kind of swinging around. Then we see Bishaten kind of charging up, and we see some hunting horn action as well, and the best shot in the trailer. We hear a scream, very reminiscent scream, and that is going to be Kesu. Kesu is doing this lightning attack to this poor Baggy. And yeah, I'm going to call this Baggy, because it is a Baggy. So Great Baggy is also going to make a return for sure. And those of you who have played Monster Hunter 3, Great Baggy, which is this monster here, is going to be a sleep monster as well. It's going to cause sleep status, and it's one of the annoying monsters where you're fighting something else and it's going to come next to you and spit sleep status on you. Now, I'm not completely sure if this is Great Baggy, because it looks a little bit different from the original one. I think the original one had a little bit larger nose part, but the one on the right definitely is a small Baggy or Baggia, and the one in the middle is a little bit larger for sure, or it's a close-up of the small one, not completely sure. But yeah, of course the main part here is the fish on the left. The fish on the left is the main part. You can definitely fish that out now. It's Kesu, of course, everyone knows the scream. Kesu screaming. It's not Giginox, it's definitely Kesu. So it's causing lightning damage, and yeah. Then we see, I think it's time. We see this guy with the dual blades talking about,
we have to protect the village.
yes. So they are talking about the new mechanic in the game. New mechanic where you go. Amazing stuff. So, Stampede or Rampage, I guess, is the thing they are calling it now. So, you go and you have a siege against 5 monsters. I think that's the Rampage mechanic, how they are kind of describing it. And no reason why it's happening, but it is happening in this town. And what makes this amazing is that in previous games, usually when you have 5 monsters, it's usually in the arena where you're like, okay, hunt these 5 monsters. And you need to do it in the arena, and they arrive into the arena one at a time. Or it's an actual quest, but they arrive into the quest one at a time as well. It's very... I don't think I've seen a single quest where you have 5 monsters and all 5 monsters are in the quest at the same time. In Road, the maximum was 3 monsters in the area at the same time. So I think they are taking that aspect of the hunting 5 monsters and kind of expanding it a little bit, where you can actually hunt these 5 monsters, but it's still going to be like a siege where you use a lot of the siege weapons and stuff like that, but they're mainly probably going to just help you out in the hunt, where you're not just forced to use your weapon against all the 5 monsters, which is going to be really hard if you go in that route. But we'll see how that pans out. Really nice stuff here. We see all the 5 monsters. Arzuros on the right, and can't remember the one on the middle. Rathalos on the back, and Agnasom on the left, and Tetranodon on the left as well. Rampage. And here are the sisters that we were talking about. I think the one on the left is going to give you your multiplayer quests, and the one on the right is the single player quest. Entire life of training.
To protect Kamura Village.
Kamura Village is the village's name. And then we see a shot. If you say you haven't seen this shot before, then you haven't played previous Monster Hunters. Sinogre basically arrives like this, very similarly. This is using the same skeleton as Sinogre, and I'm like, can't you come up with anything unique, please? Now, of course, I'm joking. Like, the monster is amazing. It's looking cool, but at the same time, like, everyone is thinking the same thing. This is Sinogre, but it's different somehow. Why is it different? We don't know. The purple stuff, aura stuff, I guess, that's like, everyone is thinking it's Gormagala stuff, but it's something different. But yeah, it's the flagship monster of the game, Monster Hunter Rise, and there's Arzuros. Poor Arzuros is always getting beaten up. And Monster Hunter Rise. There you go. Amazing stuff. I have really very little to say about this trailer other than those things. Keep a lookout in January. They're going to release the demo for Monster Hunter Rise, and you can check it out there on Nintendo Switch and stuff like that. But me personally, I don't own a Switch, and I most likely won't play this game, so everything is amazing that I see, but I'm unable to play the game. And I'm not going to buy Nintendo Switch just for Monster Hunter Rise either. But yeah. We'll see you guys on the next video, which I will record as soon as possible. It's going to, be fun, I guess. See you guys next time, and happy hunting.